ever time something so spectacularly that you feel as though it might be divine intervention? When falling down these rabbit holes, I tend to have something playing in the background as I'm reading, and a trailer for The Great Awakening played on YouTube. In the trailer, there's this preacher that's just fucking melting crowds, right? Thousands of people. Open fields. Maybe it's because I'm not an overtly religious man myself that I've never heard of this guy, but I have a feeling this is going to be a rather hot topic, and I'm probably going to piss a lot of people off, so buckle up, Buttercup, because that's what I'm here for. George Whitefield. I never heard of him. One of the most important men in American history that nobody had ever talked about. There wasn't any battles, no signature on the Declaration. He died 6 years before the revolution even started, and yet a lot of historians will straight up tell you, without George Whitefield, there probably wouldn't have been a revolution. Born in 1714 in Gloucester, England, literally above a bar, his dad ran an inn and sold wine. Not the origin story you'd expect for America's hottest firebrand preacher, but here we are. That's just the cards he was dealt. He grew up reading people, being able to work the crowd before he even knew what a crowd was, reading rooms. He gets to Oxford, he's a working student, scrubbing dishes, cleaning rooms, doing everything he can to pay his way. While he's there, he joins this little prayer group known as the Holy Club. You might know some other members, John and Charles Wesley, those Wesleys. He gets ordained as an Anglican priest. The Church of England gives him his collar, but there's not a pulpit to rest in, or whatever. Outside is where he really comes into his own. The church pretty much locked their doors to him. There's no space. So Whitefield just goes out into the fields, into the parks, any place he could get a good crowd. He goes wherever the people are, and he performs. When I say he performs, this dude is a former theater kid. He grew up doing amateur acting, and he brought every bit of that energy to his sermons. You know that scene in Reign of Fire where they're acting Star Wars out? They're doing it as if it was a play because they have TVs and stuff. Yeah, probably the same thing. He's acting out biblical stories, changing his voice up, doing all kinds of stuff. Full imaginary dialogues with biblical characters mid-sermon. He shouted, he stomped, he sang, he wept every single time. Pretty much.
Well, why you do it then, baby Billy? 'Cause I'm selfless, and I want to heal as many people as the dear Lord will let me.
But people lost their ever-loving minds. And when I say crowds, I'm not talking about the biggest. No. I'm talking about crowds of people that were 20 to 30,000 strong. His farewell sermon on Boston Common drew 23,000 people. And that's more than Boston's entire fucking population at the time. Probably the largest crowd ever assembled in America up until that point. No microphone, no flashy lights, no speakers, just a dude, his voice, and a big-ass field. And here's a fun fact. He was unbelievably cross-eyed. You see his face from 10 feet away. The dude's so... People took it as a sign. They said he could keep one eye on heaven with the other on hell. I mean, Coke bottles from the sky, whatever floats your boat. It works. But that led him to his nickname of Doctor Squintum. No shit. And it worked out for the favor of everybody. You know, you got a gimmick now, so people are going to come to see the famous Doctor Squintum. The British are over here running their mouths about him, mocking him in the papers and shit like that. It works. Any press is good press. But here's what separates Whitefield from every other preacher of his era. He understood promotion. So before he would enter a city, he would send men out ahead of him. Hang flyers up, post handbills, the broadsides announcing where he's going to be preaching at, all of that stuff. He cultivated newspaper coverage. Across the colonies. His publications between 1739 and 1742 alone doubled the entire output of American colonial printing presses. He had a publicist. In 1739, a wealthy layman named William Seward, his business coordinator, campaign manager, personal hype man, started running print campaigns across the entire Atlantic world. By the time Whitefield rolled up in Philadelphia in 1739, he was already famous, like before he even opened his mouth. This dude was 25 years old and probably one of the most recognized people in the American colonies outside of royalty. This dude had the reach that modern creators often cry about. Hi, we figured we'd take a break from teaching you history on the internet to cry. It's so rude. Go give us a follow just for his sake. Come on. Also, go check out the store. You don't have to get anything. I mean, it'd be cool if you did, but check it out. Benjamin Franklin, card-carrying skeptic, didn't believe none of this shit. He wasn't exactly a church guy, but he became one of Whitefield's biggest supporters and genuine close friend. See, Benjamin Franklin had this thing about pocketing information, so when he seen something happen, he would catalog it, pocket it, and have notes for later, being able to weaponize whatever. Franklin went to one of Whitefield's outdoor sermons specifically as a skeptic. He wanted to find out if the reports of Whitefield's voice carrying to tens of thousands of people he wanted to see exactly how exaggerated they are. So Franklin, being Franklin, did what Franklin does. He turned it into an experiment. He allegedly walked backwards through the crowd away from the stage until he could barely hear Whitefield distinctly. Then he calculated the distance, mapped it into a semicircle, and then ran the math. Because Ben Franklin was also. His conclusion? Whitefield's unamplified voice could reach well over 30,000 people in the perfect environment. Kinda like going to a concert nowadays and you have to park 45 miles away. And as you're walking there, you start hearing the music getting louder and louder and louder until you finally get there and the concert's over. I digress. Benny Frank was so impressed that he actually went back to the sermons a lot. And he printed Whitefield's sermon. He helped him print all of this stuff up. He became a genuine friend. And one of my favorite stories from this whole debacle is apparently he was so good at taking your money from you that one man decided he wasn't going to bring any money with him when he went, and he ended up borrowing money to keep to the plate. And a man who could do that with words alone was not a man to underestimate. The 13 colonies were very, very, very fucking different colonies. They each had their own denominations, different traditions. I mean, Massachusetts didn't really talk to Presbyterians in Virginia. Baptists in the Carolinas really didn't fucking align with anyone anywhere. Quakers. Whitefield didn't give a shit. He crossed every single one of those lines. He preached everywhere, to everyone, across every denomination. He was the first figure in American history to be recognized by name by virtually every colonist in every colony. I don't know. There's pretty big landmass. Whole Atlantic seaboard's a pretty big landmass, and there's 3 million people living there. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. And here's the thing, he didn't just unite people spiritually, he taught them that they could be unified, that they were only one people, that we are all one people with shared values. Even if we disagree on details, we are still one people. Core message underneath all of that fire and brimstone was you don't really need a king or a bishop or any kind of fucking institution standing between you and your conscience, your personal conviction over inherited authority. Does that sound familiar? The Founding Fathers watched what Whitefield did. They watched one man's religious movement sweep across 13 colonies like nobody's fucking business. They watched it bypass all these institutions, all these churches, all these royal governments, every authority, and go straight to the people. When it came time to build a new country, they made a big decision. They put it in the First Amendment to the Constitution. 2 clauses. Speak slowly for the people who put too much weight in television. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. the Establishment Clause. What that means is the government cannot pick an official religion. They cannot sit there and say, hey, let's all be Christian nationalists. They can't fund it. They can't favor it. They can't even act like they favor it. You cannot build a state church ever. And the second is the Free Exercise Clause, meaning the government cannot tell you what to believe. They can't punish you for your faith as much as they want to try. And they sure as fuck can't stop you from practicing it. One clause keeps the government out of the church. The other clause keeps the church out of the government. Both in the same sentence. Before freedom of speech, before freedom of press, before all the other stuff, they put that first. Not because they didn't believe in it. Most of them had their own specific faiths, and I'm not going to go into that because that's theirs and that's how people should be. If you believe in something, you probably shouldn't try to force it down anybody else's fucking. They did it because they had just watched what an unchecked religious movement can do to the population. They watched Whitefield move millions of people outside every institution that existed. And frankly, it scared the fuck out of them. That made them realize that when religion and government share the same bed, somebody's going to wake up with herpes. The separation of church and state wasn't written despite the Great Awakening. It was written because of it. George Whitefield built the fire, and the Founding Fathers built the fucking firewall. And to be honest with you, that's kind of why this whole thing exists. The separation of church and state isn't a modern debate. It's a 250-year-old answer to the question that the Founding Fathers have already solved. An ignorant society is always easier to manage, will always be easier to manage than an educated one. It's probably why most of us didn't learn this in school. I'll leave you to sit on that for a second. The battle cry that came out of this movement, that idea, the whole question authority, trust your own conscience, no institution gets to tell you what's true, that's pretty much the philosophical DNA of the American Revolution. Whitefield planted it in a generation of colonists, 55 years old, died of severe asthma, probably worn down from all the decades of yelling across fields and crossing oceans and riding horseback from New York to Charleston, which is another fun fact. The longest documented journey in colonial North America at the time was George Whitefield doing the sermon tour. A friend looked at him before his last sermon and said, man, you really look like shit. You should probably go to bed and just skip this sermon. Just go take a nap. Whitefield clasped his hands, looked up and said, Lord Jesus, I am weary in thy work, but not of thy work. If I have not yet finished my course, let me go and speak for thee once more. Seal thy truth and come home and die. But apparently it took him 2 freaking hours to say that. Standing on a board laid across a pair of barrels outside Exeter, New Hampshire, because there was no building that could hold the crowd that would show up for this guy. Then he rode off to Newburyport, Massachusetts, where he had dinner and went to bed. Woke up at 2 a.m., unable to breathe. Apparently his last recorded words, I would rather wear out than rust out. He died September 30th, 1770 at 6 in the morning. He never got to see the revolution that he could have very well helped spark. George Whitefield crossed the Atlantic Ocean 13 times. He preached over 18,000 sermons, rode horseback from New York to Charleston, actually built America's first orphanage, pretty much became the continent's first celebrity, showed the 13 fractured colonies that we actually can get along, and unification for the first time, and gave the founders every reason imaginable as to why they need to separate church from the state. If you're still here, awesome. Thank you for checking out Doctor Squintum's story. Yes, they really called him that. You like what I do? Share what I do. Go like the YouTube channel. Go give us a follow there. Check out the store. There's all kinds of stuff going on. Yeah, just quit watching the news. Stretch, baby. I'll see you tomorrow.